Alright, so we're just going over a worksheet right now, and this is section 3, 4B. We'll put worksheet right here. Alright, so we're going to do number 4 first. And it says, write the equation of a line, and we're going to do this in slope-intercept form, okay? So y equals mx plus b, that goes through the point 1, 0, and is parallel to. Now, we talked about this yesterday. What does it mean when two lines are parallel to each other? What do they have in common? Slopes are exactly the same. Very good. Okay, the slopes are equal. So what's really going on here? They give you this line right here. Okay, this is an equation of a line. And what we want to do is we want to find the equation of another line, a different line, that goes through this point right here, but is parallel to this line. Okay, so I'm going to find the equation of a different line than this. But I'm going to use this. Why do they give us this? Because they say our line, the line that we're trying to figure out, is parallel to this line. And what did we just say? We said if they're parallel to each other, they have the same what? The same slope. So what do you think we're going to have to do with this equation right here? Find the what? Find the slope. So we solve for y, right? Okay, so we want to find the slope of this. Can we just look at it the way it's written right now and figure out what the slope is? No, we have to do a little manipulation. And so we're going to go y equals mx plus b. So let's do this. Let's get rid of this minus 4x to both sides. I'm going to add it to both sides. So I get 5y equals, I want the x first. So it's going to be plus 4x plus 26. Now again, what am I trying to do? All I care about is the slope, isn't it? So again, I got to get y by itself. So it's y equals mx plus b. So get rid of the 5, divide this by 5, divide this by 5. Now technically, you divide everything by 5. So y equals what? 4/5 x plus 26/5. Now this 26/5 I don't really even care about, because what's the only thing that I really care about on this line? The slope. I'm just using this line, okay? I'm using it just because I want to find the slope of that line. That's all I care about. So the slope of the line that they give us is 4/5. So what's the slope of my line going to be then? It's going to be 4/5. I'll do that in a different color. Right? So the slope of my line is going to be 4/5 as well. Because why? They're parallel to each other. What if this problem said perpendicular? What would the only difference between this problem and the perpendicular problem be? It would be the negative reciprocal. Good. The negative reciprocal of this. So if it said perpendicular, what would my slope be? Negative 5/4, right? Everybody see that? That's really important. That's really the only thing that's a little, well, the math on the next part's a little bit tricky, but as far as understanding this problem, that's really, really important. That's the guts of this problem, okay, is what do you do? You take this line, you just find the slope of this line. So in order to find the slope, we had to write it, y equals mx plus b. Once we did that, we take a look at the slope. Our slope is exactly the same because they're parallel to each other. But now, what else do we have to find if we're going to write the equation of a line? So if we want to write our answer like this, we already know the slope, so that's going to go right here. What do we need to find? The y-intercept. So how do we find the y-intercept? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use this equation, and we're going to plug some other things into it. We kind of did this once, I think, yesterday. So we're going to plug some stuff in. Where? Where do we get it from? Where are we going to plug in, and where do we plug it in? What do you think? What does this x and y represent on the line? It represents a point on the line, doesn't it? Remember we talked about that? So this x and y represents any point on the line. Well, I don't know like a whole bunch of points. I only know one, don't I? I know this point right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that point, plug it in for x and y. So which one is the x up here? The 1 goes xy like this, doesn't it? Okay, so the x is the 1 and the y is the 0. So I'm going to plug all that stuff into this equation of a line. So let's plug it in. What is the y again? Look up here. It's 0 equals the slope. What did we find the slope to be? 4/5. What was the x? It was 1. So now look, you know what 4/5 times 1 is, but I'm going to put the times 1 in here anyway, because it's not always going to be that easy. They made this super easy with 1 and 0. And then plus what? B. And that's what I'm trying to solve for, isn't it? Everybody see that? Now this math is actually very easy. It's not always going to be this easy, but this one was pretty easy to start us off. So 0 equals 4/5 times 1 is 4/5 plus b. Now I have to get rid of this 4/5. How do I get rid of this 4/5? If it's being added, I do what? I subtract it. So I subtract 4/5 from both sides. And again, they made this real easy because that's a 0. What's 0 minus 4/5? It's negative 4/5, isn't it? So B is negative 4/5. Now look what I have. I have enough information now to write my equation of a line. I only need two things, don't I? I just needed the slope and the y-intercept. Well, I found the slope, and now I have to find the y-intercept. But now what do I want to do? I want to put these together, don't I? And I just write them next to each other. Y equals what? 4/5 x, and then what? Minus 4/5. And that's my answer right there. So again, let's recap. What do? We said we want to find the equation of a line that's parallel to this line. So I'm like, okay, parallel. What does that mean? Parallel means the slopes are the same. So what do I have to do here? I got to find the equation of the line that they give us. So I solve for y. Y equals mx plus b. So what do? I pick the slope out of there. So I said the slope is 4/5 because of this thing right here. So if the slope of their line, the line that they gave us, was 4/5, what's the slope of the line that we're trying to find? It's 4/5 as well, isn't it? It's the same exact slope. So now I know the slope. I'm halfway there. All I got to do now is find the y-intercept. So I use this formula, y equals mx plus b, and I got to plug a few things into it. I plug in the 4/5 where the m goes. And then what else can you plug in? Well, the x and the y. So I come up here to the point that they give us. I put the x in, so I put the 1 in for the x, put the 0 in for the y, did it right here. This is probably the hardest part of the whole problem, is just solving for b. Okay, that's where most people have their struggles, because a lot of times you have fractions and people hate fractions, right? But hopefully we'll do another one, and hopefully the fractions will get a little easier for you. So anyway, you do your work and you solve for b. It's just basic algebra, right? So you solve for b, and now you got both things that you need, and you're basically done right now. You got the slope, you got the y-intercept, plug them both into your equation of a line, and then you're done. That right there is your answer. Let's do another one. Let's do one with perpendicular. Let's do number 3. Okay, the numbers don't look quite so easy on this one. So we're finding the equation of a line that goes through this point right here. And it's perpendicular. I'm going to put the perpendicular symbol. Is that all right? Instead of writing the whole word perpendicular. It's perpendicular to this. All right? So before we even start, let's think a little bit. That word perpendicular, that tells you something. What does it tell you? It tells you something about the slopes, right? What's the phrase that I like to use? They're negative reciprocals. And you could say opposite, inverse, or whatever, okay? But I like to use negative reciprocal. Negative means you take the opposite sign, okay? Reciprocal means you flip the fraction. Everybody with me on that? Do the negative reciprocal. But my problem is, what's my problem right now? I don't know what? I don't know the slope, do I? I don't know the slope yet, but I can find the slope. How can I find the slope with something that looks like this? Solve for, Gabby, say it now. Solve for y. All right, so how do we do that? Well, we add the 4x to both sides. So I get 3y equals plus 4x, and I put a plus 4x on the other side. And then I just scooch that over and put plus 17. Hopefully you see that. All I did was take this and slid it right in between the equals and the 17. Everybody see that? Simple step. One more step and you got y. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. So y equals 4/3 x. If you wanted, you could just stop right there, because that's all you care about anyway, isn't it? Is what the slope was. You don't even care what this y-intercept was, but I'm just going to stick it in there anyway. So what do I really care about? This right here. That's what I care about. How does that help me? Does that mean my slope on my line is also 4/3? No, because this doesn't say parallel this time. They're only the same when the lines are parallel. What's true about two lines that are perpendicular to each other? Their slopes are, we said it like 2 or 3 times today already, negative reciprocals of each other. Okay, so that perpendicular, the only thing different on this problem compared to the other problem is I just changed my slope to what? Negative 3/4. Good. Because we take the opposite sign. All right. Now, what if this slope right here came out to be negative? Then what would my new slope be? It'd be positive, wouldn't it? Because you take the opposite sign. So this was positive, though, so I take the opposite sign, which is negative, and I flip the fraction. So two things. Take the opposite sign and flip the fraction. That's what negative reciprocal means. All right, so good, or good so far. What am I trying to say? So far. Oh, so far. I kept on saying so good. So far, I knew it didn't sound right. So far, so good. How about that? Now what are we going to do? We're going to find the y-intercept, don't we? Watch what I do. A lot of people forget to do this, but I think this is important. I always like to write y equals mx plus b down because it tells me what I need to put in where, doesn't it? So I'm going to take this m, and I'm going to, whoops, let's try that again. I'm going to put that m right in for that. What else am I going to put in? The x and the y, right. So what am I going to put in for x? -2. What am I going to put in for y? +3. Where do I get that? I got that from right here, because remember, that's the x, and that's the y. Everybody see that? All right, and then we're going to solve for b, aren't we? So this is all the easy part. Okay, solving for b is the part that gives people a lot of trouble. So let's put some stuff in here. The y is 3. The m is -3/4 times the x. What's the x? It's -2, isn't it? Now watch, since I'm multiplying that by a fraction, I'm going to put -2/1. Is that all right? Plus b. I haven't done any math yet. All I've done is plugged and chugged, right? So I've plugged everything in. Put the -3/4 in for the slope, put the -2 in for the x, and put the 3 in for the y. Now all I got to do is solve for b. So what would you do? Well, I'd multiply these together first, wouldn't you? So what's negative times negative? Positive. And you can cancel, can't you? Watch, this 2, you could go 6/4 and then reduce it, but I'm going to do it right now. Watch, this 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 twice. So what does that come out to be? 3/2, doesn't it? And then plus b. Seems like this part right here is the part that always gets everybody, but we've been talking about this all year, how to find a common denominator and all that kind of thing. So I have to get rid of this 3/2. How do I get rid of 3/2? I subtract it. So I come over here and I subtract it from both sides. You know it's going to cancel out here. I don't even need to show it on this side. So here's the part. I don't know why, but people just don't know how to do this, okay? Find a common denominator, right? So what's your common denominator going to be? It's 2. So write this as a 2. 1 times 2, 3 times 2 is 6. Isn't 3/1 the same as 6/2? That wasn't that hard, was it? But for some reason, students have a hard time with that. I just don't know why. So I've got 6/2 minus 3/2. What's 6 minus 3? 3/2. So 6/2 minus 3/2 is 3/2, isn't it? Would you agree? Yeah. And that equals what? B. So that's the second thing I needed. So look what I have. I got both things I need, don't I? I've got the slope. I've got the y-intercept. Use a different color. And then we're going to put it all together. All these areas you don't have to put. I'm just doing that for teaching purposes, okay? So watch. Y equals m, which is -3/4. It's the slope that I found. It's not the slope from the other line. It's the slope of the line that I want to find. Think of it as 2 lines. This is my yellow line, and this is my red line. Everybody see that? So the red line slope is -3/4. I put it x, and what did I find the y-intercept to be? 3/2, and that's your answer right there. If you do it a few times, you get used to it. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Since there were several problems like this, and I have a feeling that you guys weren't really sure about this last night, I'm going to let you hang on to this one more night, okay? And do those problems now. Now you know how to do them. So the other problems are pretty much the same. You had a couple from the first side of the worksheet, and then you have several more from the second side of the worksheet. And they don't get any more difficult than that. That's about as hard as they get right there. Number 5. Where did I put my answers? On which side? B. Y equals -7/3 x plus 50/3. Okay, try those. Okay, really try them. Today's what, Wednesday? I believe we have a quiz scheduled for Friday. Okay, and it's going to cover. Now, on the lesson plans, I said it's just going to cover 3 4, I think, but it's actually going to be 3, 3, and 3, 4. It's going to be 10 problems, so quiz over these lessons right here, okay? We'll go over this stuff tomorrow. Sorry, but I do have a worksheet for you tonight. It's going to be 3, 3, and 3, 4. So it'll be a review of the kind of stuff that you're going to see on the quiz, all right? So I'm not really sorry. I'm actually doing you a favor. I'm actually giving you a chance to learn this stuff so you do well on the quiz. Isn't that nice of me? Sure it is. All right.